The statements of the new head of the Office of Veterans and People Repressed by Donald Tusk's government, Lech Wałęsa, do not fall silent. During the celebrations of the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Monte Cassino, he focused on the grandparents from the Wehrmacht, a highly controversial phrase considering the circumstances of such a momentous anniversary. Why did it appear at all? These words of the head of the Office for Veterans and Victims of Repression, Lech Wałęsa, were not recorded by anyone. Only a pamphlet distributed on the hill of Monte Cassino remained. There were 90,000 such soldiers, our Wehrmacht grandfathers, in our army, more even than those who managed to escape from the Soviet Union. These words were to be said on the graves of Polish soldiers who fought against the Germans. This is a rehearsing of certain political sentiments, and it is not the job of the Office for Veterans and Victims of Repression to explain the question of the affiliation of former Wehrmacht soldiers of Polish origin in the Polish armed forces in the West in such a twisted way, so it is definitely not befitting such a place at such a time.
Nie przystoi w takim miejscu, w takim czasie.
The words about grandparents from the Wehrmacht are not a coincidence, but a planned strategy. Minister Powell of Donald Tusk's government appointment a few days earlier, during the Warsaw celebrations of the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Monte Cassino, also mentioned this.
Ale widzimy jednak również tych, którzy zasilali szereg.
But we also see here those who joined the Polish ranks through a path that is often forgotten today, relegated to the shadows, passed over into silence, namely those who were forcibly conscripted into the Wehrmacht and who deserted at the right opportunity. Few today realize that there were as many as 90,000 such soldiers.
Okazji zdezerterowali.
Lech Wałęsa is associated with politicians of the civic platform, mainly the Tri-City one.
Ja oczywiście tak to czytam jako próba zaskarbienia sobie.
I of course read it in this way as an attempt to win sympathy of Prime Minister Donald Tusk, but I repeat that the Office for Veterans and Repressed Persons is not to win the sympathy of politicians or even more to carry out certain political missions from 19 years ago. Refer to the political sentiments of the election campaign.
Zamierzchło przecież sprzed 19 lat odnosić się do politycznych sentymentów.
This is of course about the story of Donald Tusk's grandfather Józef.
To kłamstwo polega na tym, jakoby dziadek Donalda Tuska.
This lies that Donald Tusk's grandfather defected to the armed forces in the West. If someone was in any army, then everyone in his family for 100 years ahead or 100 years afterwards remember in what army he was, in what unit, and at what rank, and what the grading was, what was the combat route, what were the decorations and awards. Here, of course, there is none of this because Donald Tusk's grandfather was not a soldier in the Polish forces in the West. He was not in the Anders army. This is simply a pyramidal lie.
Na Zachodzie nie był w armii Andersa, to jest po prostu piramidalne kłamstwo.
German motifs have been running through Donald Tusk's political career from the very beginning. That is, the creation of the civic platform. He was able to come into being thanks to money from Germany, specifically the CDU party of Angela Merkel and Ursula von der Leyen. Money could have been because at that time foreign money was abundant in Poland. The West supported Polish democracy. After all, people were getting packages from Germany. No wonder Tusk is so submissive to German CDU politicians, just as almost 20 years ago, before Erika Steinbach, who wanted reparations from World War II from Poles. We are investing in the revitalization of cultural heritage, German cultural heritage in Polish lands today. With such good intentions, we would like to return. I will say frankly at the end, I have not changed anything in my perception, and it is difficult to be more positively sensitized to the German problem in Poland. Or was it 3 years ago? Thanking the CDU for its wonderful governance in Europe, not to mention, of course, who fed Putin and financed the Russian army through Nord Stream pipelines. Your art of governance has been a blessing not only for Germany but for all of Europe. For his deference to Berlin, Tusk has repeatedly received awards. Now there are many indications that what is happening with the CPK, our country's nuclear power plant, or shipping on the Oder River, is not an accident. Here this German interest will always be above the Polish interest, and the fact that now Donald Tusk is talking about certain solutions is just a cynical game in the election marathon. The elections will be over and the real Donald Tusk will come out. The question, whose interest should the Prime Minister represent and fight for in Warsaw, Polish or German? Every Pole knows the answer. Adrian Borecki, TV Republica.